Choosing the Right Jewelry, Part 4. Going to talk about materials today and body piercing basics, episode number 47. So stick around. For those that are new to the channel, my name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio located here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. So when I talk to you about these things, I talk to you as an expert, as someone who has researched materials for well over 25 years, has worked with many of these materials as far as putting them in people's bodies, and has a little bit of insight into what you want to look for when you pick out a piece of jewelry. So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about the various different metals. I'm going to not talk about materials that I do not suggest putting in the body. Basically, we're going to cover surgical stainless steel, titanium, niobium, 14-karat solid gold, and glass. I'm not going to talk about acrylics, bioplastic, or whatever they've decided to market it as this week. I do not suggest putting it in the body for a long period of time. It should be used only in the worst case scenario to possibly keep a piercing open during a medical procedure. Beyond that, that garbage does not belong in your body for a long period of time. I did a whole video on this one. As far as hardwoods, fossils, and etc., and natural materials, most people, unless they're stretching their ears, are not going to come across that jewelry. So it's kind of just a little niche market. That stuff has its own issues, own complications, and possibly in the future, I'll do an entire video talking about natural materials. Now, what we're going to talk about today is the stuff we use for piercing and what I generally suggest wearing a piercing once it heals. So what do we look for when we're picking out materials to pierce you with or to replace old jewelry? We consider, first off, generally one of the first questions I'll always ask a client is whether or not they have any metal sensitivities that I should be aware of. The next thing is when we're buying jewelry, we look at the grade. We look at whether or not it's been tested by a third party, if it's certified, how pure, or it's certified to be biocompatible. Additionally, we're going to look at how durable the jewelry is and how secure it is. How durable, how strong is that material? Also, is it going to lend itself to a high polish? Is it something that you have to worry about getting scratched and nicked and destroyed during the wearing that we normally do? And then lastly, of course, the thing that always comes into everybody's choice, your budget, how much you can afford to spend on it. So let's start off with probably the bedrock, the original, the OG of body piercing, which is surgical stainless steel, known by many names, also 316L, 316LVM. Those are marketing terms. They can mean everything from the quality of surgical steel that's used in cookware, to motorcycle spokes, to keychains, to the piggy bank you got from the bank, to, do they even give those out anymore? To implant grade, medical equipment, and body piercing jewelry. So it's important that when we purchase jewelry and when you buy jewelry from a reputable place, they're going to be able to tell you flat out, yes, it is certified grade ASTM F138-86, which is what is best for biocompatibility. The thing about stainless surgical steel is even implant grade will contain a small amount of nickel. There is nickel-free versions out there. Mostly in Europe. I think it's the EU at one point had posted or had created a regulation that required that it be nickel-free. However, in the U.S. and most of the other parts of the world, it's probably going to contain a small amount of nickel. Now, if you've been told in the past that you have a nickel allergy, The question I always ask is, were you clinically tested? Did the doctor actually do an allergy test? Or was it a situation where you were wearing crappy jewelry that you bought at a carnival and you broke out? Because there's a huge difference. Yes, usually if things like that happen, a good person to point the finger at's old nickel. Yeah, nickel might be causing that. However, it could be a lot of other things in that jewelry that you purchase, especially stuff that you bought from kiosks at the mall to put in your ears. Most of that stuff, even stuff that's hyperallergenic, which doesn't mean anything, it's once again a marketing term, even that stuff is plated in most cases, and the undercoating can be copper or something else that you're probably going to have a reaction to. So your body wears off the plating, and then you start having problems. What I'll generally ask, and kind of some good rules of measure when it comes to whether or not you're actually, in fact, allergic to nickel, is I'll ask questions about wearing jeans. I will also ask questions about wearing belt buckles, other pieces of jewelry, watches, and etc. The reason why is almost every one of those are made out of low grade, and I mean low grade steel alloys that contain a lot of nickel to keep them shiny. So if you've been wearing 501s for your jeans with the big giant rivet in the back that's made of stainless steel and never had a problem or broken out, chances are you're not allergic to nickel. If you are allergic to nickel, you will know that that causes problems, and you will either have to tape up the back or do something to avoid contact with your skin. So, stainless steel may be safe for you is what I'm getting at. One of the things that makes stainless steel so versatile and so great is that it is very durable, and thus you can put an extremely high finish on it to the point where it's mirror smooth and reflective. The other advantage of that type of finish is it helps to isolate all the things that are inside the alloy from leaching out and getting into your body. So in a lot of cases, it can actually be extremely safe. That's why there is lead in there, but I really wouldn't be concerned with wearing it in the body for a long period of time. The reason being is there's only a small amount of lead in there, and it has a high polish. It's not going to leach out into your system. However, if you buy jewelry from, let's say, somewhere on the internet where you get 100 pieces for $10, it's not going to have that type of a mirror finish on it, and it's probably not going to be made of implant grade, and you are probably going to have issues. So keep that in mind. Inexpensive stainless steel is, but quality stainless steel is not. It's affordable, but it's not cheap. The other thing, because of the durability, is it works really well with threaded jewelry in various different designs. It can be bent into different shapes and hold that shape for a long period of time without you worrying about it getting bent or distorted or looking totally different after you've worn it for 5 years. It's also very resistant to scratches and other things. And as I mentioned, it's generally the most affordable of all jewelry materials. That moves us on to the next one. Good old-fashioned niobium. Niobium has kind of fallen by the wayside for a couple of different reasons, and one of those being titanium, which we'll get to next, but also because it got very expensive at one point, and there was kind of a shortage of it. When I first started piercing, niobium was a go-to. If anybody came into your studio and said, I know I'm acutely allergic to nickel, it was the first thing we went to. And the reason being is that niobium is not an alloy. It is niobium. It is a pure element. It will have trace elements in there, but for the most part, it is pure. Unless you're specifically allergic to niobium, you shouldn't be allergic to niobium, right? However, there are different levels of purity, and it should be tested by a third party, just like any other material. The Axiom standard on this one is B392. Niobium has one other superpower other than being highly biocompatible. It can be anodized. Basically, anodizing is where it is put into a solution, and different current is applied to it to give it different colors. Basically, that anodizes the surface, which changes the reflection of the light. So you get colors from light pinks and yellows, all the way down to, with niobium, black. The only color you can't get is red. Can't do it. Don't know why. Can't. It was explained to me one time, and I'm sure if you look it up, you could probably find out. But you can get pretty much every color. This is different with titanium. You cannot get black titanium. You cannot get black surgical stainless steel or anything else. The reality is that material will not turn black. Niobium is the only one that does. And even with that, I wouldn't suggest piercing with black and niobium. The reason being is the surface tends to be very, very rough. It can cause a lot of issues during the healing process. You want that smooth finish and that fresh piercing. After it heals, that may not be a problem. Also, I know that Good Art used to make a charcoal version of it. I don't know if anybody does that anymore, where they took their black and highly polished it and had kind of a charcoal look, kind of a reflective look. That would be safe in an initial healing piercing. Otherwise, no, never put black anything in a healing piercing. You've been told. Except maybe glass. I guess you could put black glass in. The other problem with niobium is it's the softest of all materials. So it's more prone to scratching. It's more prone to being deformed if it has a lot of abuse or trauma to the jewelry. It is not a good candidate for threaded jewelry. They tend to strip out fairly easily, so I don't suggest threaded niobium pieces at all. It's just not going to last. One last thing on niobium. It is the heaviest of all the materials I'm talking about today. It tends to be a lot heavier, especially when you get into larger, thicker gauge jewelry. If you're using smaller gauge stuff, like for your ears and etc., like 18, 16, it's really not going to make a huge noticeable difference. But if you're getting into extremely large pieces, like up into the 10s and 8s, you will start to notice that it is heavier than stainless steel, and it's heavier than titanium and even gold. Okay, that moves us on to what slowly is becoming kind of the industry standard and everybody's go-to buddy, titanium. Titanium, with that, also, it is an alloy. It comes in a lot of different grades. The titanium that you put in your body is not the same titanium they make aircrafts out of. I would think that would be a given, but it isn't. The titanium you're going to be looking for is usually referred to as 614V, also known as titanium 64. ASTM number is F136. And that is biocompatible titanium. Grade 5 has kind of been popping in and out, and some people say it's acceptable, some people say it isn't. It's not the same stuff. It's a cheaper version. The cheaper the alloy, the more impurities are going to be in there, the more likely you are to have some type of reaction to it. The one thing with titanium, though, that is unlike any other type of material is usually when it's molted and then it hits air or water, it will create an innate surface, very thin, that doesn't contain any of the particles of the initial elements of the alloy. So basically, in essence, kind of makes it non-metal. So if you're allergic to metals or have sensitivity, that makes titanium a huge, great idea. The other thing with titanium is just like niobium, it can be anodized into various variety of different colors. Of course, you can't get red and you can't get black, but you can get a lot of other things. And it is extremely durable, meaning that a high polish can be put on that jewelry that will almost be to the level of surgical stainless steel. Not quite there. It's usually a little bit duller, but with the bright colors, it's hard to know the difference. It also works really well with threaded jewelry and jewelry that has that needs that extra durability. It keeps its shape for a long period of time. It is strong stuff. But that can also make it sometimes a little bit difficult to work with, especially if it's a situation where you're putting a ring in an area where you need extra room to squeeze the body part through. It is the lightest of materials, so if you're going with larger gauge jewelry and you want to stick with rings and circular barbells and etc., it's usually your best choice. It does come in a somewhat surgical stainless steel look in the unpolished, but that will have kind of a dullness to it in some cases, almost like pewter, but it's still, or silver for that matter. It has that kind of more deeper pool kind of look to it. It's just slightly different. Only, unless you have two pieces, a piece of stainless steel right next to a piece of high polished titanium, you probably can't tell the difference. Personally, I can usually tell the difference, but not always. The final thing on titanium is it tends to be more expensive than surgical stainless steel. Not a huge amount, it's slightly more expensive. But if you have metal allergies or you're concerned about that, it's a good option for that. It's worth the extra couple bucks. Now let's bring this on to the most expensive material that we're going to be talking about today, and that would be gold. With gold, you definitely need something that has a high carat weight. I don't know if you think everybody would understand this. The higher the carat weight, the more gold is in that material. With gold, the pure gold is 24 karat, even though there might be a few trace elements in there, but pure gold is considered 24 karat. With body piercing, we want something that's 14 karat or better, preferably 18 karat, to limit the amount of trace elements that may be in that jewelry material. Though they do make nickel-free, with 14 karat, usually there is always a possibility there's going to be a little bit of nickel in there, depending on who the manufacturer is or what they're sourcing that material from. With 18 karat, usually it's extremely rare you're going to see any nickel in there. Unless you're buying white gold. And white gold, unless they're using another material like palladium or platinum to make the white gold, there may be silver in there, and there may also be nickel, and you should probably avoid it. With rose gold, there's all kinds of things they put in rose gold to give it all the different colors, including copper. And some people have reaction to copper, and some people have reactions to the tarnish that copper produces. So always take that in consideration. When we're talking about what's best for initially piercing, with gold, we're talking about yellow gold. We're talking about 14 karat or better, and we are talking solid, not plated, not filled. Because generally, what the plating will be is something you don't want in your body. Though there are a lot of companies that sell gold-plated surgical stainless steel, usually the plating or electroplating will flake off over time. It's not really worth the trouble. Yeah, let's talk about gold. Gold tends to be very biocompatible. Unless you're specifically allergic to gold, I don't know anybody who is, but you shouldn't have any issues whatsoever unless you get into those strange colors and the purity level changes and alloys and things that are in there change to give it that different colors. Disadvantage, it can discolor or lose some of its polish or finish during the healing process and the amount of pressure that your body puts on it. Also, contact with especially urine, but other bodily fluids can also cause it to dull and scratch and lose that shine. Because it is a softer material, it is prone to losing its shape, it's prone to scratching, and you kind of want to keep things away from it. If you're getting a piercing, let's say your lower ear, and you constantly are banging your head against things, because that's what you do for fun, and the jewelry keeps coming in contact with stuff, gold's not going to be the best option for you because it will scratch and cause issues. Now the latest comer in this whole process, glass or Pylex. It's the same material that cookware and etc. is made out of. It's slightly different, but from what I understand, it is the same material. It is extremely biocompatible. It doesn't contain any metals, So thus, unless you're allergic to glass, you shouldn't be allergic to glass jewelry. So it's very, very biocompatible. Its other advantage is that it can be worn during medical procedures. You don't have to worry about it showing up on MRIs. You don't have to worry about it being an issue during a surgery. You're not going to have to worry about it being conductive because it isn't. It actually is an insulator. They used to use it a lot with electricity. That's where all those glass things you see at antique stores came from. Those are glass. They were insulators. They put them on the lines so the poles wouldn't catch on fire. Yep. Anyway, you learned something new. Disadvantages. It can be very fragile. It can break, especially thinner gauges like 18 gauge. It is kind of one of those things where you don't want to make any designs or any type of styles that apply any pressure to it. So they tend to be kind of more staple shape type of pieces of jewelry, or things that use O-rings or plugs and etc. It's not really usually the most secure jewelry for an initial piercing, and a lot of caution needs to be done with that. Other thing is, though, is it comes in a wide variety of different colors, including black, as I mentioned earlier. It looks very stylish. There's really cool designs and fun stuff, especially with like lobe piercings and etc., where after you've got it pierced, you want to wear something a little stylish. It's a great choice. Generally, if a client of mine is having a lot of medical issues and having to take jewelry in and out, I will generally suggest that they purchase some glass jewelry to keep that piercing open during those medical procedures so they don't have to go through the stress and strain of constantly taking jewelry out and putting it back in. It's a better option than plastic. It's more durable. It's not going to get scratched, and you're not putting chemicals inside your body and hoping that you don't have a reaction to it. So that does it. That's all I have to say about jewelry material today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it informative. If you have something to add to the conversation or a question, please leave a comment. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. I like it when you like me. They really like me. If you would like to see more of these, please subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you're notified every single time we post one of these videos. We usually post roughly about 3 to 4 videos, sometimes 5, all covering tattooing and body piercing with kind of an educational stint on it. We like people to learn things, and we like to teach them things, and we like to learn things from other people too. That's why you should comment. It is the holiday season, and if you're looking for a gift for somebody that's into tattooing and body piercing and you're running out of ideas, check out our merch store. We do sell various different designs, and t-shirts, leggings, tote bags, coffee mugs, all kinds of fun stuff, with a stint on body modification and body art. And one last thing, thank you for watching. Hope all your tattoos, piercings, and other body modifications heal with ease and without a single issue. If you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, though, I hope to see you for your body piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Go out there and do something. It's nice out, man. It's nice out. Go ride a bike. Take the dog for a walk. Follow people around your neighborhood. Make them nervous. Make a friend. Have fun, guys.